Okay, joining me today is Yarden Tzemach. For those of you who visited Israel after October 7th, Yarden very well may be the face of Kibbutz Beeri, frequent smile and tour guide there almost every single day. His brother Shachar fought valiantly until the very last bullet, defending the dental office, and unfortunately fell on October 7th. And Yarden has been working tirelessly on behalf of his family and Kibbutz Beeri in general, and telling Israel's story about what happened on October 7th and afterward. So, Yarden, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, there's so much to talk about, and I feel that on one hand, 45 minutes or an hour is not going to do your brother's legacy justice at all. And at the same time, you've lived a full year plus in this alternative reality that's also very interesting, and I think people need to hear about. So I hope that today we can blend the two of those, and you can have an idea of what life has been like after your family and what it's like at Kibbutz Beeri now and the plans going forward. October 7th, where were you, and when did you realize that something was insanely wrong?
I was just on the beach camping with friends. We were celebrating a bachelor party to two good friends of mine, both from Beirut, and we were just having fun. It was We arrived there Thursday, so it was Sunday. We went to sleep very late on Friday night, just having a laughs and sitting on the beach. When around 6:30 a.m. we woke up. This was in Ashdod, so it's just about an hour north of Be'eri.
And it's worth noting that Ashdod was also hit heavily that day as well. It's not like you were in the safe area.
No, not exactly. We were waking up 6:30 a.m. to an alarms, sirens of rocket attack from Gaza. We had no idea, of course, that there are terrorists that are already crossing the border and penetrating into our kibbutz. But we realized that Be'eri is about 2 miles from Gaza and Ashdod is in 1 hour north. So we realized if there are rockets in Be'eri, if there are rockets in Ashdod, there must be rockets in Be'eri also. So we packed our stuff and were headed back towards the kibbutz. Most of us had wives and children back in Be'eri, so we didn't want to leave them alone by themselves when there are rockets around. On the way south, um, we we heard from a friend who left a few minutes before us that the army is closing all the roads out of Ashkelon. At first, we couldn't understand why, and then when we got to the checkpost to the roadblock where the army closed all the roads, we started to
Just a point of clarification: it was the army or the police?
I'm not sure actually. I don't quite
Okay,
remember. It might be the police also. Probably
I'm
the
just trying to
police.
think because I don't I recall that the from the survivors I've spoken to and people there that it was the police that had taken the um, junctions.
Yeah,
Anyhow,
it's probably
yeah.
the police when you mention it. I think it was the police. So we just went, and then we started to get all kind of messages from our community members in the kibbutz and from our families that they are hearing shootings, and they hear shootings, and of course they didn't get any information from the army or from any official information that there are terrorists crossing the border, heading towards Beirut, something like this. Everything they could understand is that they are shooting outside. Somebody is shooting outside. They heard Arabic, so they realized that terrorists were penetrating the kibbutz. Everybody went into the safe room or um, stayed in the safe room where they went when the rocket attack started. And then I was away I was part of the security team of the kibbutz for the past 6 years, and since I couldn't get to the kibbutz, I tried, and I was an hour north. I tried to think what I can do. So I called a neighbor of mine. He's a former general from the kibbutz. His name is Yossi Bachar, and I told him where is my rifle. I told him the combination to my gun safe, and I was sure that okay, he will go there, and the army will get there in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, because we were always preparing on on the safety team of the kibbutz that okay, if something will happen, first of all there will be 2 to 5 terrorists crossing the border or entering the kibbutz, and the army will be there at maximum of 20 minutes. Of course, none of this happened, so I said I'm an
Can I
hour.
ask you a question just about that real quick?
Yeah.
When you say you prepared routinely as the Kito Konanut or the civilian defense squads, you prepared in coordination with the army, or these were done separately?
No, it was in coordination with the army. We had like a training day, 2 days or 4 days or a year of training. And the army was always like, we are preparing you to the worst case scenario, but this will never happen. Don't worry. We need to do it, but don't
So
worry. We are
was it
defending
taken
you.
seriously, or was it kind of like a joke where you're all having coffee together?
We were taken seriously while we were training, but we never thought that we will never need to use these skills that we
Right.
was
Okay.
training. So I gave my rifle to the general, and since I didn't have my rifle. I realized there is no reason for me to come back to the kibbutz. I can't do much help over there, and I can help a lot by being in a safe place. I was just staying in a gas station in a safe room, and just texting with my family, trying to also texting with my friends and people that I know that are in special forces or in the reserves or in the army right now, and trying to realize what's going on, when is the army arriving. And it took, of course, good few hours until the army arrived. So I was the whole time there. I was like texting with, preparing my family, supporting them from a distance. We are
Were
five siblings.
people were people? And I'm sorry. You're okay. Your five siblings. Where are you in the birth order?
I'm the second one. So the first one is my brother Shachar, the oldest one. I'm second. The third one is Itai, and then Itai has special needs. He also lives by himself in the kibbutz. And the two youngest ones, Ido and Shai. Shai is a sister, and Ido is my youngest brother. Ido heard that they are shooting, so he just ran to be with my sister. They live really close to each other. He just ran to be with her, so they were together in her safe room the whole day. And I was just uh, supporting them from a distance, trying to call anyone that I can.
I wanna ask you quickly about. I'm sorry to cut you off. I want to ask you really quickly, just as a for clarification for those who don't know, what when you said that you were talking to the army and you were reaching out to your friends, were you getting responses? Because I know that if in talking to survivors of the Nova Festival and some people in the kibbutzim who are trying to call the police or trying to call ambulance or some sort of medical service, that there wasn't always a response. Were you getting responses in a timely fashion?
It was more like friends that were just, heard that something is going on, so they went to the reserve army. So it wasn't like they were ready with the gear on site. But we did get the responses all the time. But the response was the army is on the way. It will be there shortly. Just hang on for a few more minutes or 10 more minutes, 15 more minutes, and the army is on the way. So we always thought, okay, it didn't take, they didn't come in 10 minutes. They will come probably in the next half an hour or an hour. Eventually, it took the first team of uh, Shadag arrived at around 9:30 a.m., but there were just 12 of them against hundreds of terrorists. So after less than an hour, they were evacuated themselves to the to the gate of Beeri and tried to fight on the gate, while hundreds of terrorists are still slaughtering the people of Beeri. At that point, my brother Shachar was part of the security team of the kibbutz, and he jumped. He left his wife and two children, his 2-year-old son and 5-year-old daughter. He directed his wife how to put the baby's bed under the handle of the safe room door, and how to put the fridge in front of the main door of the house. He locked the house, and he went outside to fight to protect the community. And he got to the dental clinic where there was terrorists nearby in the kindergarten. They knew where to come because these kindergartens are rocket proof. So the terrorists prepared to come to the kindergartens. This is minutes before my brother got there. They shot another member of the security team. His name is Gil. So my brother took Gil, since he was a medic in the army back in his service. He tried to rescue Gil. He broke the door of the dental clinic, and then the head of emergency team of the kibbutz called all the medical team of the kibbutz there to help my brother. And then when the fight went on, they just more and more wounded members of the security team arrived to the dental clinic. So my brother, along with Eitan Chada, that was joining later, he first didn't have a rifle since his rifle was in the gun safe of the kibbutz, the main gun safe of the kibbutz, which the army told us to put the rifles there. I didn't allow them to. I didn't want them to take my rifle. I said it's ridiculous to take the rifles out of our home and put it in the gun safe. Why do we have a security team if we can't have our rifles? So me and also my brother refused to give the rifle and put it in the gun safe. But some other members of the security team had their rifle in the gun safe. So Eitan was joining my brother, and they both um, fought from the Delta Clinic, protecting the medical team of the kibbutz and the injured members and their injured friends over there. Um, the whole day, basically, for 7 hours, they fought by themselves. The the IDF was not there, not anywhere near them, and eventually they fought for 7 hours to the last bullet until they ran out of ammunition eventually and were all murdered. Um, yeah, they were
What
murdered.
time? What time did
Others,
they?
sorry.
What time did they run out of ammunition?
Around, I know that they were murdered around 2 p.m., 2:15, something like that. I'm not sure exactly. I know that already in like 1 p.m. they wrote in the WhatsApp group of the security team that they're running out of ammunition, um, but nobody could help them at that point. After they used their ammunition and the injured members' ammunition and managed to fight off and to kill tens and tens of terrorists. And to prevent them, they also protected two major junctions in the kibbutz, and they managed to prevent the terrorists from getting from the kindergarten to the central um, neighborhood of the kibbutz. So they managed to fight and prevent the terrorists from getting to the central neighborhood for 7 hours until they were eventually murdered. But very short time after they were murdered, the IDF finally arrived there and fought off the terrorists. So they basically, my brother Shachar and Eitan, were basically saving this whole central of Be'eri, um, or at least the central neighborhood of Be'eri.
What's that like now, over a year later, telling this story as I'm sure that you've told the story hundreds of times based on the number of tours you've given. So it's probably thousands of times, right? What
And
emotionally, how are you feeling about when you recall the story? Is it a frustration, anger? Are you emotionally removed? How do you comprehend what happened?
of course, I'm always emotionally removed, telling about my brother, and we were very close. We were just 1.5 year apart, so we grew up like almost like twins. Of course, I'm always removed talking about him, but for me, it was first of all at the beginning, and still is kind of therapeutic to tell the story and taking people over to Beeri and show them what happened. And also, there are so many stories from October 7 and from the last year of the fighting in Gaza since and in Lebanon now. So I want people to remember. It's very important for me and for the family, so people will remember his story, the dental clinic story, the heroism of him and the rest of the security team of the kibbutz, and how they fought off and they managed to prevent. We lost 102 members from Be'eri and 35 were kidnapped, but it could be much worse if it wasn't for them. And the investigation of the army, the general Mickey Edelstein that was in charge of the investigation, he showed us in a very clear way through maps and numbers that if they weren't my brother Shachar and Eitan, if they weren't where they were, it could be hundreds, tens or hundreds of more uh, murder people that were murdered from Be'eri. So it gives some kind of comfort knowing that they
Your brother
did
died a
not.
hero,
Yeah, he was a
and
hero,
not
and
not
they
in a, not and it's
were
not
good.
not as a word of comfort. It should be comforting that he was a hero, but it truly was a hero and saved hundreds, if not thousands, of people's lives. You mentioned Mickey Edelstein in the report. What was your reaction to the Be'eri report when it was published by the IDF?
I think it was the report was very full of details, but these are it didn't me personally it didn't tell me anything that I didn't know. Like okay, they gave me maybe more of a numbers and details, but it didn't address the more acute questions. Where was the army the whole time? The whole time, where was the air force? Why they didn't listen to the people that were warning, to the lady soldiers, girl soldiers that were telling that something is going on across the fence? Why they didn't told the kibbutzim that there are terrorists breaking the fence? If we the security team of the kibbutz even had 15 minutes or 10 minutes before, things could look a lot different. So to the big questions, we didn't get an answer. They gave us, the story of the fight of Be'eri, but they didn't really answer the big questions.
I want to ask specifically. And you mentioned Shaldag, um, and they criticized Shaldag for evacuating when they got hit by an RPG, and I think a soldier was killed right away, and another one was very seriously injured. Are are the kibbutz members of Be'eri upset at the fact that Shaldag evacuated their wounded soldier? Because as an observer who's been back and forth to Israel a lot and is talking to hundreds of soldiers a day, I could only imagine what it's like when you are overwhelmed by hundreds of terrorists and there's 12 of you and you just got hit by an RPG and your friend is lying dead next to you. I can understand the impulse to say, let's get the injured person out and regroup. But the army was very critical of that. Is that something that's shared by kibbutz members, or kibbutz members understand what Shaldag, kind of Shaldag's decision making?
I think it depends really on each individual feels differently. Me personally, I think they could do they could do more, but I can understand what led to their decision to evacuate themselves to the gate. and to fight off the gate. They didn't evacuate themselves completely. They just went to. They understand that they are outnumbered, and they wanted to fight for the gate. And I understand after talking with them that they thought all the time that, like the rest of us, that the rest of the army will be there very shortly. So the best thing, what they figured is the best thing that they can do is try to clear the roads to the rest of the army, because they can't fight by themselves, 10 of them, to fight hundreds of terrorists. So they try to fight off the gate, at least to make the roads clear for the rest of the IDF to arrive.
And you
Eventually,
notice that perspective is not even in the Beeri report, because they were just kind of lambasted as it was almost a little bit coward like for I think they said something along the lines of abandoning their responsibility as a soldier, and they prioritized a soldier over a civilian. But as they told you there, they were just trying to make it so that other soldiers could come and help them fight, which is again some of the nuance that's not always included in reports, and we'll see what happens with the rest of the reports. You mentioned it depends on who you ask within Beeri, and it's funny you say that. And can you were obviously giving tours at least 2 or 3 a day. Almost everyone that's been to Beeri knows you. Can you explain to viewers and listeners the diversity of views within the kibbutz when it came to how you were going to deal with the kibbutz site itself immediately after October 7th? Because on one hand, you're trying to mourn, and you had this insanely unthinkable tragedy, and on the other hand, and people want to see it. On the other hand, you want some sort of privacy as a community because you're mourning. So can you explain a little bit about what that was like back and forth over the course of a year?
Yeah, before October 7, we were just a private and small community, and we understand that we are. The story of Beeri is part of the Jewish history right now. It's not just about Beeri; it's about we are part of history, and I think people should understand what happened in Beeri, and people should bear witness and see with their own eyes, like you see, like you go to Auschwitz or other places. You need to see. You've been to Beeri several times. This is how we know each other, and you know that hearing the story, whether it's just talking with me or in the media, and being in Beeri is something very different. You don't, you can't tell the feeling of being in a place that in a burnt home, where at least at the beginning it was the smell. And so I think it's important for people to realize, first of all, what happened, what we are fighting for, and especially soldiers, a lot of soldiers before they went to Gaza in the first few months of the war. I took them around, showed them the kibbutz, so they will remember what they are fighting for. And it's kind of a motivation for it gives them the drive and the motivation for the soldiers to see what happened and to remember what they are fighting for. In the other hand, there are people who lives in Beeri. I came back to Beeri to live in Beeri about 2 weeks after October 7th. My house was very close to the dental clinic, so my house was not destroyed. It was one of the houses that was saved by my brother and Eitan. So I could come. I was one of those who could come back to Beeri and wanted to come back to Beeri. And people living there, and sometimes it's not so nice to see. Some people don't like it when they see so many buses and people going around opening doors. And so you need to balance the two things. Like you need to take people around and to explain to them what happened, but you don't want the gate to just be open and everybody could go in and just wander around.
Did it feel a little bit like a zoo in that people are going around and looking at different, I hate to use the word exhibitions, but sometimes when you speak to even wounded soldiers, right? I was speaking to a wounded soldier who was in the hospital, and he said sometimes it's hard to balance people who have really good intentions, and you go from bed to bed to bed to bed to bed, and they felt like it was a little bit petting zoo-ish. Did you? And obviously, you're. I'm not challenging people's intentions, but did it feel sometimes that it was kind of like a tour of
Yeah, it does feel a little
the
bit when there are many of them and many people are coming at the same time and buses and all that. It does feel a little bit. Of course, like you, I think it's all come from good intentions, and I'm sure that everybody wants to be. Everybody, first of all, we got nothing but support since October 7th, so I can't say anything bad about the people that are coming. People are coming with best intentions, and yeah, so you need to balance. You don't want too many to come at the same time, but you need. But it's important to show people what happened and to tell them the stories.
And is the kibbutz going to preserve what happened, or is it? Has there been a decision made on that, or is it going to be removed and rebuilt? So, for example, the dental clinic, it was very powerful seeing that, and there was an amazing tribute that I think you put on the wall to your brother. Is that going to remain, or do you think that will be rebuilt?
So as for the dental clinic itself, unfortunately, it's going to be destroyed because the engineers decided it's not safe to keep it as it is anyway, and you can't keep it. Basically, it's too much of a, destroyed too much. It's not stable to leave it. Um, as for the rest of the kibbutz, the decision is not made yet. I believe that some will be preserved, but also you need to balance between preserving and destroying and rebuilding, because basically we want to come back to Beeri. We want to live in Beeri,
And
and of
that's
course, if
the
we still,
consensus. That's the consensus across everything. Do you have people that don't want to come back? I mean, and let's not forget, as of right now, there's 101 people held hostage in Gaza,
yeah,
and it sounds really crazy, but there's so many tragic and horrible stories from that day that I hate to say people are sidelined, but your story and your brother's story had a degree of finality on October 7th, and there's some people they don't even know how this thing ends. And
yeah.
how is that? Are there people that don't want to come back to the kibbutz?
First of all, I'm sure there will be, and there are still people. There are already people that said that they don't want to come back. Since we have so many of our homes are destroyed, the community right now lives in a temporary housing in Kibbutz Hatzarim. The majority of the community lives there. So we have between 2 to 3 years until we will fully come back to Be'eri. So many of the people are not sure. I believe that around 80% will come back, but the estimation changes all the time, because I believe that 80-90% will come back. But people they don't need to make the decision right now. They want to feel safe to come back. And people are coming every day, whether it's to work in the printing factory, in the agriculture, or other places. But to raise children and to have family in the kibbutz is different. So people are still not sure, but the majority want to come back, and there are some that will live, and some, I believe that some will join us. That some people want to join us. They didn't live in the kibbutz beforehand, so I think there will be some kind of a. Of course, there will be changes, but Be'eri will rebuild again. That's for sure. It's not. There will be people who will live, and of course we have to take care of them, and I can't judge anyone.
Of course.
But we want to rebuild Be'eri, so Be'eri will be rebuilt.
And it's important to note that Beeri predates the state of Israel. The Beeri was opened in 1946, so
Yeah.
pre-state kibbutz. Um, Much has been made or was made, especially at the beginning, about the politics of the people who live there and the politics of people who were murdered. I don't really want to go into so much of who voted for who and what policies do they support. But what would you say is the general feeling of the residents of Beirut towards how the war in Gaza has gone? Do you feel that you're getting closer to that security? Do you feel that people feel more comfortable with being able to go, the idea of going back, or has that been far from the um, consciousness of the general population?
Right now I'm definitely feel much more secure than in the first few days, or even I feel that it's more safe now than it was on October 6th. On October 6th, we felt very safe, but we know now that it was an illusion. But I feel that it's safer now. There are no really, rockets from Gaza anymore. There are the soldiers, there are troops inside the Gaza Strip. So, of course, I feel safer right now. The question is how it's going to be in the future. So, I think people realize that the army, once the army is on the borders and in Gaza, it's much safer in Be'eri right now. The question is how it's going to be in the future. That's the big question. That's what will determine in 2 or 3 years when it will be time to come back. Uh, what will be the situation then?
And going back to the tours and people coming through, and obviously everyone has tremendous intentions. How is that translated into action for helping Kibbutz Beeri? I know there have been trips of members coming to raise money to rebuild and to support the kibbutz members. How is that going? I can only imagine how much money was designated for Kibbutz Beeri in the first month or two of the war. We're now in November of 2024. Are you guys still receiving sizable donations? Are people still reaching out to try to help?
Yeah, fortunately, people are still supporting us, and people are still um, making. I get emotional thinking about the amount of love and support that we receive, not just financially, and in every aspect. It started with clothes that we were all evacuated with nothing but the clothes on our body. So when the community was evacuated first to the Dead Sea, there were people coming and sending them clothes and whatever they needed. The therapies that came to the Dead Sea, and shoes, everything that people needed, and all kinds of donations, and people came to do shows for the children and to take care of the children, and therapies they were doing like massage and all kind of these kind of therapies, and we got so much support and love from the Jewish people around the world, from the people of Israel, and also the Jewish people around the world, from Am Israel. That's yeah, it's amazing. And I say that we experienced the worst form of humanity on October 7th, but since then we are experiencing the best form of humanity, which is the love and support that we are receiving. So we still on a campaign of raising money to rebuild Be'eri, since there are so much that was destroyed. We have 130 homes that were totally destroyed, another 120 or so that were damaged, 11 public spaces like public buildings that were destroyed. So there's so much to do. We want to start a trust to secure mental health for everyone in Beirut that will need it for the next 5 years. And all
Why
the
5 years?
I think 5 years is the probably the number that some people will need it for life. Some people need it for a year, for 2 years. It depends. We want at least for the next 5 years that we will be secured as far as mental health therapy, and all the things that we need um, for the temporary housing and all that.
Is this
Because
provided at all? Is the state providing some of this, and you guys are trying to supplement it, or
yeah,
this is privately fundraised?
yes, the state built the homes, the mobile homes in Hatzarim, our temporary houses. But we are supplemented, between what the government gives and what the needs are. There is a gap. So philanthropy and people that are donating is filling the gap.
And what you said about the worst of humanity and the best of humanity is so powerful, and something I will not forget, because it is amazing to see how many people really truly care, and to see people from all over the world that really want to help. And I'll tell you, I think I've told you this, but it's unbelievable to me how many times people would say, "Oh, I was just in Israel, Daniel, and I met this amazing guy at Beeri. His name is Yarden. Do you know him?" So just laughing, because I think we probably now have hundreds of mutual friends, not even knowing it. And it is amazing to see how many people really care. Jews, non-Jews, doesn't matter where they're from, really, really care. Um,
And
I
we
want
are
to.
all together. This is what I understood. I understood when I was taking people over from people like you who came few days after October 7. I already met you in Be'eri. It was probably a couple of weeks after October 7 when we first met in Be'eri. And then the hundreds of maybe thousands of people that I met during this time. That, every Jewish person felt something on October 7. Well, it doesn't matter whether you're from Be'eri, from Tel Aviv, from New York, or from England. It doesn't matter. Everybody felt something. Everybody's life changed in a way. Of course, the most in the most dramatic way is for the people who were physically suffered like us. But things happened on October 7 to the Jewish people around the world, and I realized that we are all in it together. I didn't know any Jewish American before October 7, and now I know hundreds or maybe thousands of them.
And we
And
won't stop annoying you, right? There you go.
yeah, we are all one family basically. The whole Jewish people are. We are a big family. There's so little of us comparing to the rest of the world. So we are all in it together, and this is
Did
what
you
gives us
find
this
Did
most.
you find that you were consoling people that were visiting, or they were consoling you? I feel like most people probably showed up thinking that they're gonna offer you support and try to give you strength. But I know from talking to you all the time and talking to you right now, I am strengthened from what you're saying. So I'd imagine that happens to be the case with most of the people that came around.
I heard it before. People told me that in Israel we say in Hebrew we say "Banu lechazek ve'yatzanu mechuzakim." We came to give strength, and we came out even stronger. So yeah, I heard it before. We are all in it together. So yeah.
Yarden, you're the man. I know the Jewish people are very grateful that you have dedicated so much of your time. You had every excuse in the world to just say, "I'm moving to Australia and I don't want to be involved in this." And you were there every single day, and you're still there, and you're still doing so much stuff. I want to thank you for the time right now. Your brother's Neshama Shev and Aliyah, he was a hero, and his legacy definitely is motivating for so many people, seeing how he stepped up in the most critical time. And everyone does it in their own way, and definitely runs in your family, because you've stepped up more than big time and put country over self and community over self, and it strengthens everyone else. So really, it's amazing. I'm honored to even just call you a friend. So thanks for joining, and I hope we can touch base every couple months, more in depth like this, and be able to see how the community's rebuilding, and God willing, it will be even bigger and better than before.
Thank you.
Thanks,
It's
man.
good. Bye.